it's raining outside. It's literally a dark and stormy night, except, you know, during the day. This gets me thinking of one of my favorite movie genres, which is the horror genre, and how fitting it is that I've moved to Japan, which has produced some of the most notable horror movies in recent years. Movies like The Ring, The Grudge, Dark Water, Audition, and My Neighbor Totoro. An interesting quirk of Japanese horror movies is that a lot of them take place in an apartment, much like the one I've just moved into. But you'll be happy to know that my new Japanese apartment is definitely not haunted. I've been in Japan for about 2 months now. I've never actually lived abroad, and after 2 months it's finally starting to sink in that I live here right now, that I'm not just visiting for a week or two. My first stop here in Japan was Tokyo, but honestly I was so jet-lagged at the time that I don't really remember much about Tokyo aside from the short videos that I took on the bus on the way to our hotel. After Tokyo, I flew to Akita, which is where I am now. And if you look up Akita online, you don't initially get a location, you get dogs, which is actually something that Akita is famous for, the Akita Inu. It's also famous for rice, for sake, and for drinking sake. Yet another thing that Akita is famous for is how much snow it gets in the winter. And that was actually kind of hard to believe in the summertime when the heat and the humidity here both conspired to make you feel like you were just going to evaporate and become a permanent part of the water cycle here in Japan. Luckily, where we're located, you have mountains on one side, and you have the Sea of Japan on the other. So on those really hot days, you could go to the beach and, you know, experience the heat at the beach instead, and then just run back to your apartment. Now, the mountains that are next to Akita are fantastic because they make sunrises absolutely beautiful. If you want to see a cool sunrise, you have to see it over a mountain, because that's what makes all those rays shoot out in every direction. It's the sun coming over the mountain. The trick, of course, is actually waking up for sunrise. I've seen far more sunsets here in Akita than I have sunrises. I only saw a sunrise once since I've been here, and it was the first morning that I was here because I was still jet-lagged even after spending 3 days in Tokyo. So in the first month or so, it was mostly a lot of settling in, and that gave me a lot of time to just see more of the city and get used to where I'm going to be living for the next year. And that also gave me the opportunity to go to things like fireworks shows. Fireworks shows here in Japan are very different from what I remember in America. In America, you probably have a fireworks show once a year on the 4th of July. So 4th of July, that's maybe about 15 minutes and it's set to a few patriotic songs. Here, it's an hour or it's 2 hours. And there are different teams that are going, and each of them have a different song that they have their show sync to. And at the end of it, it is one finale after another. It's really impressive, and that is one thing that is very different about Japan that I noticed right off the bat. The other thing is the language, and I thought I had a pretty good handle on Japanese, but actually coming here and living in a Japanese apartment has really underlined the fact that I don't know Japanese that well. Every appliance here has kanji characters, Japanese characters on them that I didn't know. And so that made daily life interesting at first. But I think having to familiarize myself with a microwave in Japan and with a stove in Japan and actually understand what all those buttons do has actually helped me learn kanji better. It's helped me with my Japanese. Or at the very least, it's helped me use Google Translate quicker. In fact, there are a couple things here in Japan that have made me really fast with Google Translate. But it's not just the language, it's how the apartment is set up itself, and it took me a little bit of getting used to. So I think this would be a good opportunity to show you around my new Japanese apartment. So the first thing you see when you walk through the door is this area right here. Now, before I came to Japan, I watched a lot of apartment tour videos, probably like 12 million, and they all mention this area.
Let's begin with the tour. I'm going to start here in the Genkan area.
This is my Genkan.
Genkan.
Genkan. Genkan.
Genkan.
So I'm guessing I'm legally obligated to say this. It's the Genkan. You take your shoes off here to keep the rest of the apartment clean, in theory. So if you're entering a Japanese apartment and you trip over something, that's probably your hint to remove your shoes. And moving on to the kitchen, you might think this sink looks different. Now, I like this. It makes washing dishes much easier. And next to that is the stove. Now, I don't have an oven here, which is fine. I don't do any baking. What I have is a stovetop. It's a gas range. And the first time I used this, it tricked me. I couldn't get it to turn on. I thought that the pilot light was out, but the real culprit was the gas. You see, in Japan, you might have to turn the gas on each time you use the stovetop, and I think the reason for this is all the earthquakes Japan gets. If there's an earthquake, the last thing you want is a gas leak. But honestly, since I've been here, we've had more North Korean missile threats than we've had earthquakes, so I don't know if that's a win or not, but anyway, onto the microwave. So there are a lot of new appliances here, and this microwave is one of them. Now, I love this microwave because it has these helpful pictures on it. There's a setting for a bento meal, like I'd get at a 7-Eleven. There's a setting for coffee or tea, and there's a setting for rice. Now, at the risk of getting arrested by the microwave police, I've used the rice setting for bento meals, for tea, and sometimes if I'm feeling really adventurous, I'll use it for rice. Another new appliance in this apartment is the laundry machine. So the laundry machine... hang on, let me turn on the light. They all flicker like that. It's like I'm in a horror movie. So there's no dryer here. It's just a laundry machine. And a lot of Japanese people hang their clothes out to dry, or they hang them in to dry. And that's taken some getting used to, but after 2 months, I realized the trick is just to do laundry almost every day. So there's a Japanese apartment pro tip for you. Next to the laundry machine is the bathroom. A lot of Japanese apartments have a separate room for the toilet and a separate room for the bathtub, but not mine. This bathroom is small. It's comically small, like a clown car, and they've squeezed a lot of stuff in here, just like a clown car. You can see the sink is kind of spilling out over the bathtub there, and you can see the bathtub is really deep. Now, I thought that was kind of strange at first, but it turns out having a deep tub is actually super comfortable. So I've taken more baths in 2 months in Japan than I've taken in 10 years back in Los Angeles. The other unique thing about this bathroom is this knob that switches water from the faucet to the shower head. Now, you would think this would be easy to use. You turn it toward the sink and water comes out the faucet, right? Wrong. It comes out the shower head. Why? Why the heck not? I've been here 2 months and I still get this wrong when I wake up in the morning. So we've covered the Genkan, the kitchen, the bathroom, and there's really only one room left. And when I leave Japan, this is what I will miss the most about this apartment. It's the tatami mat room. Tatami are usually made with a rice straw core and then covered with woven straw. It's surprisingly comfortable, and I've actually fallen asleep many times on just the tatami in this room. Now, of course, I also have a bed, except it's not really a bed, it's a futon. Basically a thin, soft mat that you spread out on the floor each night to sleep on. When I first saw this, I was convinced I'd have to buy a Western-style bed, but combined with the tatami underneath it, I actually haven't had a bad night's sleep since I've been here. The other thing I love about this room are the sliding doors. They're called shoji, and this translucent paper is usually handmade. It's considered a UNESCO cultural heritage, and I have it here in my living room. Shoji are great because you can close them for privacy while still allowing sunlight into your room, or you can leave them partially open to keep direct sunlight off your desk while you're working on, let's pick something random, a YouTube video. On the other side of the sliding doors, I have a small balcony with a view of some buildings and a small park across the street. In the mornings, I can see Japanese salarymen rushing to work on their bikes. Now, these lights in these rooms are mostly fluorescent, and they all flicker when you turn them on. I don't think that's a standard feature of Japanese apartments. It's just a bonus feature of mine. The kind of funny thing about these lights, aside from the fact that when they turn on, it looks like a horror movie with the flashing, is that the way that you turn them on is through this old school, just, string hanging down. And it's not really the case with this light, but the light in the living room dangles so far down that more than once I've run right... Jeez. Okay. More than once I've run right into it. And it feels exactly like a spider web hitting you in the face, which is lovely late at night when you're searching for the light and you don't think it is as close to your face as it actually is. So a handy feature of this apartment is the intercom for the door. If someone rings the doorbell, I can see them through this video screen here. And when no one's there, I can just check in on my... Well, that's weird, but that actually reminds me of another strange feature of this apartment building. Sometimes the elevator will go up to my floor and open over and over without anyone inside. And I've seen this happen 3 times, and the 3rd time I filmed it. At first I thought someone had accidentally hit the button for my floor, but then it kept happening. Now I think maybe there's something wrong with the wiring, which is a cheerful thought. I still use it every day. Okay, well, thank you for taking that tour with me. I do hope that this was useful. I hope that you learned something. I know that when I first moved in here, there were a lot of little surprises. In fact, there were some surprises while I was filming this video. But if you're planning on moving to Japan, or if you're planning on just visiting, I do hope that this helps you plan ahead. It was certainly educational for me. I learned not to plan ahead too much and to not tempt fate when talking about haunted apartments and things like that. I also have a lot of footage that I've taken around Akita, so I do hope to show you more of the city in the future. And I recently took another trip down to Tokyo, so I hope to share that with you soon as well. But until then, thank you again for coming with me on a tour of my definitely not haunted Japanese apartment.